Right. I think we're live now. So this is the weekly live broadcast. Those of you guys that are joined already, and those of you that are joining in a few minutes, welcome to the weekly slightly rednecked live broadcast, slightly redneck weekly live broadcast. There we go. I got it right eventually. Give me a second here to get all set up, and we will get going. Just to let everybody know, if this is your first time here, this is pretty much every week. I do these every Thursday, 7 o'clock Central Time. Sometimes, things come up, I'm not able to, but for the most part, I do every single week. I gotta look over here to see what I'm doing, sorry. And I don't have any topics planned. This is pretty much just an Ask Me Anything session. I do my best to respond to the chats that come in the chat window. If you're watching this broadcast after it's aired, you're watching the replay, then leave a comment and I'll do my best to get to the comments later. But during the video, I do my best to answer, like I said, every chat that comes through. And I will give you guys a warning. This is family friendly, so keep it family friendly. You only get one warning. You will get booted out. You start cussing at us or saying inappropriate things or being hateful or any of those kinds of things. So, all right. Who we got in here? Albert. Good evening to you, Albert. Yeah, everything's going pretty good. Hopefully things are going well for you. We've got, about 6 people in here so far. Nobody's talking much yet, so we'll give everybody a minute to get going. Good evening to you, Toasted Rabbit. Glad to see you. Glad you could make it. Grab a drink here real quick. Hello to you, Sophia. Sophia de Miguel. I think I got that right. Hopefully I did. This is one of those times where I really need to have something planned to talk about. Oh, TH55269 says, hi, get ready. I got questions. Well, hopefully I can answer them for you. I'm going to do the best I can. Yeah, I got your name right. Good. I'm probably going to forget that and mess it up later, though. Hello to you, Lauren. Lauren Nicholson, hello. Good evening. All right. Sorry, it's a little bit slow. Like I said, this is probably the times where I should plan things out so I'd have something to talk about while we're waiting on everybody to get in here. It gives me a few minutes to just, to cover some things and not just sit here in silence while we're waiting for everybody to get in. So we've got a couple more people joined in now. David, good evening to you, David. And Dave, good evening to you. You're not here, you're just lurking, huh? And let's see, how are the quail? Sophia says, how are the quail? Well, everybody's doing fine. I've got, quail in the brooder box right now, about going on 3 weeks old. I would be moving them out to the brooder or to the grow out pens right now, but it's supposed to get like unseasonably, well, not unseasonably, I guguess it's in the season, but it's supposed to, the temperature is going to drop pretty significantly tonight and tomorrow. We're supposed to have our first frost probably Saturday morning. And I'm going to let that pass because then after that, the temperature won't be dropping nearly as much. And I don't want to put them through, the shock of going from, 60 degrees, 65, 70 degrees in the garage to 30 degrees, outside at night. So I'll let the weekend pass, and then it's not going to be as bad, and I'll probably move them out beginning of next week. But they're all doing fine, no problems right now. So hello to you. Who's that? Ramiro Rodriguez and John Kincaid. Hello. TH55269 says, I put eggs in my still air incubator yesterday. Today I realized the temp was measured on the screen floor, and the egg turner is elevated considerably. I moved the probe to the top of the eggs. Okay, that's a good thing. It says it read 106. Did I fry them? Should the temp be measured on the top of them or amongst them? That's a very good question. It really should be measured at egg level, wherever your egg level is. 106 is definitely a little high, but if you just put them in there yesterday, they're probably going to be okay. You can make your decision. You can let them go, see if they end up hatch, see what kind of hatch rate you get out of it. Or if you have a whole bunch of eggs on hand that are ready to incubate anyway, you might just scrap them and start over just to avoid it. But I think they're going to be okay. I mean, it was only one day. It's probably going to be fine. But again, don't know for sure. We'll just have to wait and see. All right. Rob says, hey, Chris, been watching you for a few months now, and I would like to start raising meat birds. What do you recommend and don't recommend? Well, if you're talking about quail, Coturnix quail is definitely the way to go if you're looking for meat production. There are other types of quail, bob whites and gambles and those kinds of things, but as far as, bang for your buck, production, Coturnix is the way to go. You really can't go wrong with most of them. I always recommend, though, if you're looking for meat production, jumbo pharaohs or jumbo meat makers. Those are my 2 favorites. I think they are probably the best birds to get. They are the ones that they grow the fastest, they get the biggest. Either one of them is going to be fine. They're pretty much the same, honestly. The Pharaohs tend to have slightly bigger eggs. The meat makers get slightly bigger, but if you put them side by side, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. They're pretty much the same. I also like them because they're a standard brown bird, which means that you can just look at them and tell that's a rooster, that's a hen. You don't have to do any vent sexing or anything like that. Very easy to sex. And the aggression seems to be much less with those birds than it does with some of the other kinds. So those are the ones that I would recommend. My experience with like Texas A&Ms, the white birds, which everybody calls Texas A&Ms, they may not be. They may be Texas A&Ms or they may be English whites. Either way, my experience with the white birds is that they are a little bit more aggressive. So I kind of stay away from those. I like the brown ones better. And not only that, but again, you can't tell the roosters from the hens. They all look identical. You have to vent sex them. So that's my recommendations on it. But again, you're not going to go wrong with any of them. They're all going to do just fine for you. All right. Toasted Rabbit says, have you been able to handle your quail without them panicking too much? Checking on their feet and for mites can be a bit of a struggle for us. Any advice would be awesome. Well, that's a good question. No, I don't handle my birds all that often. So yeah, they don't tend to like to be handled all that much. I wouldn't say they panic though. It's not too bad. Pick one up. I would say turning them upside down is definitely a little bit of a stressful thing for them. So if you're turning them upside down to check their feet, yeah, I could see them kind of panicking a little bit that way. But I don't usually find it that bad to deal with them. I would say, I don't know that you need to check their feet all that often. If you do, usually, well, I guess you do have to pick them up to check the bottoms of their feet, make sure that they don't have, bumblefoot or something like that. But usually you can tell if they start limping or acting weird. That's when I check them. But and mites, you should be able to see mites on them without having to pick them up and handle them too much. If you're looking to tame them up, the best things I would say is find something that they really enjoy. Bring that to them, handle them a lot, and not grab them and pick them up a whole lot, but get them to where they want to feed out of your hands. Find a treat that they really enjoy, feeding out of your hands, spending a lot of time with them, talking to them while you're around them, just getting them used to you being around. That's the best way to do that. All right, let's see where we at here. Roger McNutt says, New Mexico checking in. Good evening to you, Roger. Thanks for stopping by. Walt, good evening to you, Walt. And TH55269 says, almost done building my hutch. Trying to decide, should I paint, stain, or just Thompson's water seal? Any recommendations? I would say paint it. Paint's going to hold up better generally than stain, or if it's an outside hutch anyway, or any Thompson's water seal or anything like that, paint's going to hold up much, much better. And longer. You're not going to have to repaint every couple of years like you would with a water seal or something like that. So that would be my recommendation. All right, Conquest City Farm from Indiana is here. Good evening to you. D23, hey, how's it going? Going well. Hopefully it is for you too. Ice Hack says, I had a new 4-week-old quail to my main flock. They went from 12 eggs per day to 2. How long does it take for them to readjust and go back to normal production levels? Usually any kind of stress factor like that's going to cause them to stop laying for a week or two. I'd give them 2 weeks before I'd expect them to go right back to normal laying. They'll probably overcome that pretty quick, but don't panic unless it's been a little bit over 2 weeks. My birds have kind of stopped. They haven't stopped laying, but they've really slowed down and become a little bit sporadic because we had just sudden change in temperature. It was getting up. It was up in the 90s, for good grief, forever. 90s during the day, down into the low 80s, high 70s at night, and then suddenly it dropped, and now our nighttime low is getting down in the 50s. So 20, 30 degree drop in temperature, like that causes them to kind of. It's a stress factor for them, and it does cause them to kind of get sporadic with their egg laying a little bit, but they'll recover from that, and they'll start laying again pretty quick. As long as you got enough light, 14 hours a day on them, then they'll recover and they'll start laying again pretty quick. All right. Albert Noah says, just put 110 jumbo Myshire eggs and 26 jumbo Texas A&M eggs in the incubators. Should be exciting in about 17 days. Boy, it should be. That's a lot of birds. Good luck with your hatch. I hope they do really, really well. Okay, and Walt says, TH, use what you have on hand. What are we talking about? I don't see that comment. Is there somebody that's hidden on the channel that maybe I'm not seeing? I don't know who that is. So if I'm not getting your comment, I'm sorry about that. Oh, never mind. now I, figured it out. You're talking about using stain or paint or whatever on the hutch. Yes, use what you have on hand. That's good advice too. Sorry, I'm a little slow sometimes. Sharon Pace, hello to you. Hello to you outside in Georgia. Shanartison, I don't know how to pronounce that. Says, my first dozen hatched, 4 of them had leg deformities and died. At one point during incubation, the kids unplugged my unit and the temp dropped to 80 for a couple of hours. Okay, I don't think that 80 for a couple of hours is going to cause that, but that's good thinking. Usually deformities and things are going to be related to temperature or genetics, but with 4 of them having leg deformities, that's probably not a genetics issue. That's probably a temperature issue. It's probably not, though, just because it dropped to 80 for a couple of hours. It probably has more to do with the average temperature over the long haul. So I always say, if you're having problems with your incubation, the first thing to check is always your temperature. Verify that your incubator is reading the temperature correctly, especially those styrofoam incubators. That's what I use, as a styrofoam, so don't think I'm talking bad about it. But they are notorious for their thermostats going bad and not reading temperature correctly. Get a couple of thermometers, make sure they're not digital, make sure that they read 100 degrees at least, or they will read up to 100 degrees at least. And actually, I'm sorry, make sure they'll read down to 32 degrees at least, I should say that. A lot of thermometers that you get, like meat thermometers and things, they won't go down below like 100, because that's what you're measuring. They expect you to be measuring temperature of meat, and you're not going to eat meat at 100 degrees temperature, so they won't go down that low. Make sure they will read below that. Make sure they're not digital. Make sure they can be calibrated. Calibrate them to make sure they're accurate, and then throw them in your incubator. And I always say get 2 because then you've got 3. Your incubator itself, the thermostat on it, and the 2 thermometers. And if 2 of those read the same temperature, then you can probably be pretty sure that that's the accurate temperature. A lot of times you'll find that maybe your incubator is incubating a degree too high. It sounds like with leg deformities, it's probably a degree too low, especially if those birds were to hatch out a little bit late. So instead of hatching out on day like 17, 18, maybe they'd hatched out on day 19 or 20, then that also points back to maybe your temperature was a little bit low. So those are a couple of things to look at. Those would be my suggestions, the first things to start with. Hopefully that helps. If you find that your temperature is right, it's reading correctly, then you might look at if there's some kind of genetic problem or something like that. Sometimes you just have that problem with a hatch though, and you never have it again. And there's just no way to know for sure. But again, I would go with temperature first. All right. Where are we at here? Cruel Intentions, hello to you. And let's see. Walt says, has anybody ordered anything from Winona Ranch? I have not personally ordered from them, but they got a really good reputation. So, they're really well known for, what are we talking about? Cages. They're quail cages. And they look pretty nice. They're battery style cages, which means they're short. I don't know, actually. I'd have to look again. The last ones I saw, I should say, were battery style cages. So the cages are pretty short. They're made for breeders. And they make a nice rack system. They're kind of expensive, but they look really nice. And they get really good reviews. So I wouldn't hesitate to order from them if you're looking for something like that. I think it's probably going to be just fine. All right, but somebody else may or have already ordered. We'll see in the comments as we go, I guess. All right, Robert Hermson, sorry, late to the live video. Just finished my automatic watering system for the quail. That's going to be a time saver. Yeah, and don't worry, we're not keeping track of you when you make it into the video or not. There's no attendance here. It's okay. We're just glad that you made it. But yeah, congratulations on finishing that up. Huge time saver. I'm getting ready to take mine down because it's getting close to winter time, and probably maybe a couple more weeks, maybe a month more. I'll be able to use it, and then it's going to have to come down because it's going to freeze up in the winter time. So that sucks because that means I got to go back to hand watering and taking water out a couple times a day for them. But it could be worse. All right, Cruel Intention says, good to see you still giving advice. All advice you gave me was great and very appreciated. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm glad that you found it helpful. All right, Shanartison, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, says, I like the thigh bone. Oh, it's like the thigh bone was too long. 2 of them couldn't stand up and the hips seemed wrong. Sounds like splayed leg. That's a pretty common issue with quail, where their legs are kind of maybe splayed out to the sides, and they can't stand up, or they fall over on their side when they try to. That's generally splayed leg syndrome. Walt's saying the same thing. Splayed leg, feet go out to the sides. Yeah, that very well could be it. That can be attributed to a vitamin deficiency. Vitamin E and thiamine would be the two that you would be looking for. So you can give them a supplement and try to help them overcome that. It's usually not the case. Usually, again, it's something about the temperature. Usually, a low temperature took them a little bit longer to hatch. They're a little bit weaker because of that, and that's what causes the splayed leg. But not always. It can be genetic. It can be vitamins. It could be a couple of different things. So to fix that, you can give them a vitamin supplement. See if that helps. It's not going to hurt anything to do that. Make sure it's got vitamin E and thiamine in it. You can also use like a shot glass or a something similar to that you put the birds in that's going to force their legs to stay underneath them and keep them in there for, overnight, 12, 13, 14 hours, something like that, and see if that fixes that problem for you. So those are a couple of tricks that you can try. There are people that have made like leg braces for them basically out of like tape. I've always had a really hard time getting that to work. I've never been able to do that very well myself, but you might look up a couple of things like that, leg brace for quails or something like that. You might be able to find something and see how that works and try that out as well. All right, TH55269 says the hutch is 2x2x8 plus 2x2x2 dark room. Okay, so it's 2 feet tall, 2 feet by 2 feet dark room, 2 foot by 8 foot regular hutch. Okay. Added a 16 by 16 elevated sandbox on the opposite end, thinking about adding limbs or sticks across it since it's got so much headroom. Would the quail use those? It's unlikely. They may. My quail do like to jump up on the feeders and stuff, but they are ground dwelling birds. They're not usually going to perch on anything. If you put a shelf up there, they might jump up on it and stand on it, but it's unlikely they're going to use sticks or anything like that. Try it out and see, though. It could be completely wrong on that. It's just not likely that they'll use them or not use them much. All right. Hey, Gustavo is here. I talk about him when he shows up. He's the guy that's trying to help me learn Spanish. We had a little bit of a conversation this week, got together and tried to speak Spanish, and like he said, I'm rusty with my Spanish. I haven't been practicing as much as I should. It's getting worse instead of getting better, but anyway, he's helping me out with that. Hopefully it gets better soon. I told him that I have a hard time understanding his accent because he's from Chile, and everybody else I talk to, usually if I listen to podcasts or speak with anybody that it's speaking Spanish, it's usually Mexican or Colombian, and the accent is different, so it's hard for me to understand him. He also likes to talk very fast to me, but that's okay. That's common. I'll get better with it as I go. All right, Ramiro says, I have 2 hens that act puff their feathers and get very defensive or protective when I'm collecting eggs. They're jumbo Coturnix quails, and they don't act this way towards other quails. Yeah, it sounds like they're defending their territory or something. They're a little bit stressed out because you're in there. It's not really anything to worry about necessarily, but yeah, I've got a couple of hens that will do that occasionally. They don't always, but it seems like, especially when they first start getting into the breeding season, like, throughout the winter, it's kind of calmed down. They've stopped breeding. They've stopped laying, the roosters have stopped crowing, all that. When summer first kicks back up and they first start crowing, first start laying eggs again and all those kinds of things, it seems like they're a little bit more on edge then, a little bit more aggressive at that point, and then they calm down as the season goes on. But yeah, I have a couple that do the same thing sometimes. All right, Lauren says, where are we going? Okay, I have a doe with fly strike. Says, I've been soaking her in vinegar water and LA200. I'm not sure what LA200 is. There are tiny maggots in and around the vulva, eggs on the hindquarters after soaking. I dry her. Any other advice? Yeah, you need to get something to treat her. Probably a pesticide would be what I would go with now. Let's see, fly strike. I want to say permethrin. Permethrin. I can't remember how to pronounce it. Permethrin is a pretty good one to use for that. You might also be able to use ivermectin. I'm not sure if that will treat external parasites as well. But you need to get some kind of insecticide type treatment on her to get rid of those. That's my best advice for you on that. All right. Good luck with it too, by the way. That's terrible. I'm sorry you're having that problem. I wish I could give you something that was an easy, quick fix for it. But short of, like I said, using some kind of pesticide, I'm not sure that there is an easy, quick fix for it. Walt says, tendons not stretched out properly. Set them in a shot glass for a few hours to pull the tendons into the right place. Yep, that was my suggestion too. Thanks for always jumping in and helping us out with that, Walt. Walt's always great if I don't know the answer to something or I'm stumbling with it. Walt's always right there to help out. LA200 is an antibiotic. Okay, I wasn't familiar with that. Well, an antibiotic is probably going to help with infections or anything like that, but it's not going to do anything to eliminate the flies, the larvae, the maggots, those kinds of things. You really need an insecticide of some kind with that. That's my advice anyway. We'll see if somebody's got some different advice. They may have dealt with it. And Shan Artisan, there we go. I'm sorry, I got distracted by a comment. And maybe they will be able to have something else too. All right, Hacker Gress from Indiana. Good evening. Shan Artisan, there we go. I'll forget that and I'll get it wrong again. It says, oh wow, might try that with the shot glass. Yeah, good luck. Hopefully that works out. Oh, look at that. Linda says, I have a cage from Wainoa Ranch, I guess it is. I always get it wrong. Says, I like it, easy to clean, have 2 ladies in there. They lay each day. So there you go. Good. Where we at here? Rebecca, what's the lowest wind chill my jumbo Coturnix quail can withstand? I'm still worried on the prairie we get low double-digit wind chills. Good grief. Lowest wind chill they can withstand. Two things I would say on that. First of all, make sure they have a way to get out of the wind. You don't ever want them to where they're just stuck and not have a way to get out of the wind. They need some kind of shelter, blocked off from the wind so they can get in there and get out of it. But as far as the lowest wind chill they can withstand, I mean, it's pretty low. We get typically down to 0 degrees Fahrenheit in the wintertime, and our wind chills are well below that, probably down into the -10, -15, and I see the birds out in that weather. It doesn't seem to bother them that much, so they can handle it. But again, they need the option to be able to get out of the wind if they want to. So do that. I wouldn't worry too much. They should be fine. All right, where are we going here? Colleen says, why do meal quail stop putting out white foam? Why do male quail stop putting out white foam? It's probably because we're coming up on wintertime, depending on where you're located. The days are getting shorter, so they're going out of breeding mode, out of the breeding season, so to speak. In the wild or in natural environments, that's dictated by the amount of light that they get. When the days get longer, signaling spring and summer's coming, then their hormones kick up. They start breeding. That's what they produce the white foam for. They start crowing. The females start laying eggs, and that lasts throughout the summer. And then as the days start getting shorter, they stop doing all those things because winter's coming on and they don't want to be raising babies in the wintertime. I mean, they don't think this logically, but that's the way that God made them. I mean, that's just the way it is. So hopefully that answers that for you. If you don't have light on them, then they will stop producing foam. All right, Because I Can Homestead says, I've had some quail that have a curled neck once they hatch. Sounds like wry neck. It seems to be ones that take a few days to completely hatch. Humidity level is 65. Yeah, sounds like wry neck. I believe wry neck is usually a genetic disorder that's caused by them. But like you said, sometimes hatching a little bit late can cause those kinds of issues as well. And again, it's pretty much the same thing as, to treat it, it's pretty much the same thing as like splayed leg. You want to treat with a vitamin supplement, thiamine or vitamin E are the two that's going to help tremendously with that. Aside from that, there's not a whole lot that you can do to fix that. It's unlikely that it's going to get fixed. Most of the time you end up just having to call those birds out. But that's something to try and see if that will fix it or not. Good luck with it. I hope it does work. Ice Hack says, tried getting my first batch of eggs. I was curious. I tried hatching my first batch of eggs. I was curious about what would hatch. The parents were Pharaohs and some Golden Italian. For some reason, a new color popped out. Pharaohs with white wings. Yeah, that's pretty common when you start mixing those birds especially. You're going to get all kinds of crazy, weird color combinations. It's pretty normal because, none of those birds are really, I shouldn't say none of them. For the most part, none of those birds are really purebred, especially when you start getting away from like the browns into the other colors and things. They were all, color mutations that were just selectively bred to purify the strain, so to speak. So they have those genes in them from way back. They're recessive of different color strains. When you start mixing those together, you get some weird colors for sure. Sounds like an interesting bird, though. All right. Because I Can Homestead says, is the curled neck because by hatching taking so long? Any suggestions? Yeah, I think I answered that one for you. If not, let me know again. I'll readdress it for you. Owen Miller says, hi, how you doing? Doing well. Hopefully you are too. Brandon Weller, just received my eggs today from Kansas City Quail Farm. They honored your 20% discount still. Really? I didn't know they still had that going. Very professional company. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Kansas City Quail Farms. Good people, good company to deal with. They have a great product. I didn't realize that 20% discount was still valid. That was a temporary thing that they set up on a video they sponsored. Oh man, that's been a couple of years ago, I think. But yeah, great company, good people to do business with for sure. All right, RMBA family says, hey, I have 38 quail eggs, not hatched. Oh, none hatched. I'm sure that's what that says. They were stuck to the egg. I think I couldn't grow, but I'm going to get more this weekend. Chucker eggs. I feel I did something wrong. Okay, they were stuck to the egg. Are you saying they fully developed, but they couldn't hatch out of the egg? They got stuck inside the egg? A couple of things could be that. Sounds like a humidity issue. If your humidity is too low, or especially if you're opening the incubator as they've pipped the eggshell but they haven't hatched completely, then that will cause that membrane inside to kind of shrink down around them, and it shrink wraps them in and sticks to the egg, just like what you were describing there. So that's your humidity being too low, or again, more specifically, opening up the incubator at the wrong time can really cause those issues. It could also be that your temperature, you have a little bit of a temperature issue, probably incubating a little bit too low. Maybe your thermostat on your incubator is reading too low, so you think it's 100 degrees, but it's actually only 98, something like that, and that could be causing them to develop slower, which can also cause them to die, and then appear to be stuck in the shell or stuck to the shell. So those are a couple of things to look at with that. I hope that helps, and good luck with your next batch of eggs. All right, TH55269 says, plan to put hutch up against backside of detached carport. It has vinyl siding. Do I need to put up a barrier or something? Probably not. It depends. You really want to keep the vinyl siding super clean, then yeah, put something up there to kind of block anything that would get on there. But quail aren't that messy. What you're going to see is dust and feathers. They're going to have some dust and some feathers that fly out of the cage. But they're not like rabbits, where they don't, rabbits will shoot urine out of the cage. You want to make sure you protect things around their hutch if you don't want them to be covered with urine. So that's my thought on that. All right. Shen Artisan says, I've also found that they love bugs. They are eating all the pill bugs they can find. Yep, quail do love bugs for sure. Interesting on the pill bugs. I never noticed them going after pill bugs. Oh, sorry guys, got to move around here a little bit. Legs going numb. But yeah, they do love the bugs for sure. They'll go. It's one of the funniest things ever is to see a housefly get inside the brooder box, because those quail just chase it from one end to the other like a group. It's hilarious to watch. All right, Kinfolk Farm in Georgia says, Chris just hatched another 38. Thanks, pal, for everything. Learned so much from you. I have a lot over 100 birds now. Processing starts tomorrow. Well, hey, good. Congratulations on that. 38 birds being hatched. I'm glad that you're finding the videos helpful, and thank you so much for watching and having to 100 birds now, and you're going to start processing tomorrow. Good luck with the processing. Hopefully that goes well. All right, Walt says, splayed laid fix, use soft pipe cleaners and bend them into hobbles. There you go. That's a good idea. I haven't tried that one actually. Shan Artisan says, do they heal so you can take the pipe cleaners off? Yes, they would. It's a temporary thing that you put on them, just like putting them in a shot glass or whatever. You give them time to stretch their, like Walt said earlier, stretch their tendons out basically, get the strength in their legs, and then you just take that stuff off, and they'll probably be okay in the end. All right. James Ingle says, Chris, do you use a heat light on the quails during the winter? No. I don't use a heat light. Other than the babies, the first week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, I guess, of the babies in the brooder box, I use a heat lamp, and I gradually decrease the temperature until it's down in like the 70s, and then I just unplug the heat lamp and take it off. And then after that, I never put a heat lamp on them again. They do just fine in the cold. They're fine. You don't have to worry about it. All right, good evening to you, Verna. Thanks for joining. Walt says to TH55269, as long as it doesn't get direct sun, so it reflects heat. Hey, that's a good thought. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, you may want to block it off if it is in direct sun. Of course, you shouldn't put your hutch in direct sun anyway. But all right, grab a drink here. Verna says, after how long before giving up on hatching quail eggs? I've had eggs hatch up until about day 24, day 25. Usually about that point is when I give up. So day 24-ish would be about the time I'd say, well, nothing's probably going to hatch out of here or nothing more, and give up on them at that point. All right, Jakir says, hey, Chris, nice to join you again from the UK. Thanks for staying up late and joining us. That's got to be like 1 o'clock in the morning or something. Says, how the week flies, or how the week goes by in a flash. Yes, it does. Feels like yesterday we were talking on the live stream. Boy, it sure does, doesn't it? Hey to you, Dancing Critters. She says hello to everyone. I assume you're a she. I don't know that for sure. Walt says, yes, remove pipe cleaners once the legs are under them. You can remove them, keep an eye on them to see if they are cured. Yep, good advice. Oh, wow, look at that. Dancing Critter says at least 40 below up here in north central Wisconsin. Whew, man, you can keep that. I don't need 40 below. I'm okay with winter coming on. It's going to get a little chilly, but to me, cold is like, below 30 degrees is cold, and in the teens or 0, that's pretty cold. 40 below, no, that would suck. All right, Jakir says, my female quail are molting. How long does it last for? I've noticed that they are fighting a lot more. Is that normal? As I had one die on me a few days ago. I don't have any males. I don't think it's necessarily normal that they start fighting more when they're molting. Maybe a little bit. I mean, they're probably a little bit stressed out as it is, so probably a little grumpy because of all that going on. Usually the molts only last for about a week and a half to 2 weeks. They'll lose their feathers and then they'll grow them back, and they grow them back pretty quick. If nothing else, you may be seeing aggression because especially when they're regrowing feathers, they really need a lot of protein in their diet. So if you're feeding them with a low protein feed, that may be why you're seeing the aggression with them attacking the other birds, trying to get at their feathers, trying to find a protein source is basically what they're doing. Now, if your protein levels are up above 25%, that's probably not the issue. They're probably just grumpy and picking on each other. Hopefully they don't kill any more birds. So good luck. I hope that helps. All right, TH55269 says, using your egg water float test, can you overhydrate them? Had 4 float like a cork, 7 floated on end. Shortly 5 laid flat and removed them. Forgot about them 2 hours later. All but 1 was sunk and flat. That's a good question. Can you overhydrate? I imagine you could overhydrate them. I don't know that that's 2 hours, I would think I'd be a little bit concerned about them suffocating, the lack of oxygen to them. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I haven't tried them for that long. Really, what I would suggest, if you have 4 float like a cork, throw them out. Don't even try to incubate them. There's very low likelihood that they're going to incubate at all at that point. But, who knows? Try it and see. Let us know the results. It'd be interesting if you knew which ones those were, if you could mark them with like Sharpie or something to see if they ended up hatching. All right. Figured the chemical in tap water bad for him. Yeah, chlorine in tap water, it probably is bad for him for sure. Jakir says, I'm having trouble cleaning the wire mesh floor due to all the molting. Did you experience similar issues? I don't really have any issues with the wire cage getting clogged up with things or molting or any of those things. When they're molting, it's not that big of a deal. Of course, mine are outside. So if you have yours inside, that may be a little bit different. I have wind and things like that to kind of help keep it cleaned out. It's not really a problem for me. Deer Creek Homesteading says, hi from Michigan. Hello to you, and thanks for joining us. Alan says, for your doe, if you can find screwworm spray and treat a couple of times a day, and then it stopped. But I think what you're saying is to treat the fly strike on the doe, use screwworm spray. I'm not familiar with that, but thanks for the suggestion. That sounds a lot easier, and if it will treat, like I said, a couple of times a day, spray it a couple of times a day, take care of it for you, that'd be great. All right, Walt says, wild pheasants and quail survive on prairie by shelter from the wind. Farmers and landowners leave areas of brush called shelter belts for wild birds to get out of the wind chill. Yeah, you're absolutely right on that, Walt. Birds, quail in general, are an edge species in the wild. So bobwhite quail anyway. I'm assuming Coternyx are the same way in the wild. don't know for sure, but they're an edge species. They like to live, they dwell in the edge of the forest and the prairie. So like, you have a pasture and you have the forest, and then right at the edge of the forest where those two meet, there's usually a brush line there where you've got, small brush, lots of really brushy stuff. And that's where the quail tend to habitat, right in those edges there. So like Walt says, a lot of farmers have started leaving that area instead of cutting it all the way back to the woods and farming all that. They'll leave that little section. It's not a very big section. You're talking, I don't know, maybe 6-7 yards on the edge of the maybe 10, I don't know, something like that. They'll leave that for the birds to create habitat for them. So good. I'm glad they do. Off-Grid Alabama Homestead says, "What's up, folks?" Well, hopefully things are going well with you. I'm just busy answering questions tonight. We got started off slow and now we're taking off. Walt's got a great suggestion, Jakir. He says, use a shop vac to vacuum up the feathers. That's a great idea. I hadn't thought about that. I don't ever have a problem with it really in mind, so I didn't think about it, but a shop vac would work great. Just vacuum it out. Make sure you don't get a bird. You don't want to suck a bird up in the shop vac. That would be disturbing, to say the least. Rhonda says, "I'm sorry I'm late. That's okay. I've told you before, we don't keep attendance. It's fine." James Ingalls says, "Deer Creek, you can't raise bobs with other quail. They get picked on." Yeah, good advice. TH55269 says, "Walt, it's on the east side with a large oak shading. Plus, I got large overhang roof. Don't know if the poop issue would cause problems. Never crossed my mind about heat or sun. Thank you." Yeah, quail pretty much poop straight down. So you don't have to worry about that too much, like getting on the walls, any of those kinds of things. They're not really bad about that. They will kick in the sand and stuff like that, and they'll throw the sand all around. But that's not really that big of an issue either, I don't think. All right, Ice Hack says, "About the Rednecked quail, I had a chick with that problem. His egg was extremely small. He started unzipping but needed help to come out. But after he grew up, normally he was a beautiful male." Really? It's very rare that they actually overcome Redneck in the end. It's very rare that they actually survive when you try to help them out of the egg even. So I'm glad to help. I'm glad to hear that worked. Rhonda says, "Don't know if you saw my pics of the brooder we built, but I lost 16 baby quail this week because of me putting things inside the brooder. Had to use the feeder from the store and nothing else in the brooder, so they couldn't get stuck under it." Oh no, you got things stuck under them, huh? Says, "I did end up with a 51% hatch rate this time though." Well, that's not a bad hatch rate, 51%. Hopefully your next one's a little bit better of that. Yeah, losing 16 of them because they're getting stuck underneath things. Man, I'm sorry to hear that. They are good about that though. They will get stuck underneath things. I've used those chicken feeders with the holes in them. You screw onto a mason jar and come in there to find birds. I don't know how they do it. They're still feeding the bottom of it, but they're up inside the jar. I don't know how they get up in there, but they manage to somehow or another. All right, TH55269 says, "Quail like crickets and mealworms." Yes, they do. It says, "Trying to farm them too. Chickens are funny to watch." Yeah, the quail like those things too. They may have a hard time. It may take them a little bit, especially the crickets, to get used to knowing that as a food source and actually eating it. They tend to kind of peck at their food, and a lot of times something that's fast moving like a cricket or something like that's going to get away before they get a chance to eat it. But try it. Who knows? All right. Rhonda says the Wi-Fi temperature gauge is working beautifully. Mine works great. That's what I use. And if you guys haven't seen my brooder box, I have the Wi-Fi. It's in my Amazon shop. If you need it, you can go to my Amazon shop and check it out. But it connects to Wi-Fi, so I can control it with my smartphone, I was looking for my phone. It's what we're talking on right now. I can't show you the app because we're filming on the phone. But yeah, it connects to the Wi-Fi, so I can control it from my smartphone. You just set the temperature of it, and it turns the lights on and off to keep that temperature about the same. It's great. It's a nice time saver. Where are we at here? Rhonda, my one rabbit. Oh, there we go. My one rabbit had her smallest litter so far, but 6 is fine with her. Have 10 most of the time. The other rabbit that I wasn't sure she didn't have any due on Monday. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time with this. There's no punctuation in the sentence, so it kind of all ran on. My one rabbit had her smallest litter so far, but 6 is fine. With her, she has 10 most of the time. There we go. The other rabbit that I wasn't sure she didn't have any. was due on Monday. I think that was a typo. Was due on Monday. So, all right. So she had her smallest litter ever, 6. Yeah, that's not terrible. Sometimes rabbits do have a little bit of a smaller litter. 10 would be better, but 6 is okay. And your other rabbit didn't have any. So I'm sorry to hear that. Rebreed her. For me, it's time to start breeding rabbits. Just about. I'm going to probably do that again. I don't know. Maybe I'll get them done this weekend. I don't know. All right, Gary B says, good evening all. My only hen out last hatch is laying daily now, approximately 8 weeks of age. Nice. Congratulations. Not bad. All right, Outside in Georgia says, wow. So you stopped turning after day 14 and will wait until day 24 to give them time to hatch. 20 days is the longest I've waited. Maybe my Texas A&M eggs will hatch better. Boy, I sure hope they do. Yeah, I've given them till day 24, but I rarely have anything that hatches after like day 20, 21. So it's, yeah, if you want to cut it shorter than that, don't feel bad about that. It's pretty rare, like I said, for anything to hatch after that. I just give them as long as I can. All right, Walt says, yes, mealworm as a snack. Walmart has bags of dried mealworms cheap. That's a good suggestion too. James Ingalls says, Chris, we're here in Kansas City, Missouri. Can you find meat rabbits? Having a hard time finding any. I'm not sure, James. I wish I knew. I'm not in Kansas City, Missouri, or Kansas in Missouri. I am in Missouri. Never mind. I'm reading that as Kansas City, Missouri. So if you're in the southern part, honestly, it doesn't really matter. Look on Craigslist is the place that I generally look to see if I can find rabbits. You can check with if you have any. State fairs, any of those kinds of things going on. Check with those people. Usually they have some pretty good stock. Maybe check with your local school and see if they have a 4-H club. There's almost always a couple of kids raising rabbits for a 4-H club or, future farmers or something like that. And, when they get done with them, they're done with them. So you might be able to pick some pretty good breeding stock up there. The other place I would check would be, what did I not say? What did I forget? Feed stores. You might go to a feed store, put up some advertisements there, see if somebody that's raising rabbits will pick those out. That's the best suggestion I can give. It can be hard to find rabbit breeders for sure, and it can be hard to find good stock. Usually, I find them on Craigslist, but sometimes, it's not always instantaneous. Sometimes I have to wait, look for about a month or so before I find a good breeder rabbit on Craigslist. Lots of people want to sell babies, but usually if I'm buying a rabbit, I want to buy a breeder. But they're hard to find for sure. All right, Verna Young says, Chris, can you give the link for the place you got your quail eggs from? I got my quail eggs from Kansas City Quail Farm. So you can just look them up. Kansas City Quail Farm. Tell them that I sent you. I do have a video. What was it called? Where to buy quail eggs or live birds. I think it was something like that. And I don't know. Let me see if I can find it maybe real quick for you. See if I can find it. And this is going to take a bit. I'm sorry. I can't do it right this minute, Verna. I'm going to have to do it later because it's going to take me a few minutes to find that. And I've got too many comments to answer or too many questions to answer in the chat. But if you come back after the video has posted, post on the comments section, then I'll have a little bit more time to respond to that. I'll find the video for you that has the link in it. But again, you can just look up Kansas City Quail Farm and go to their website directly from there. You don't have to worry about waiting for the link that I provide you with either. All right, Rhonda says, James English, I have Bob White's, James Inglis, not English, Inglis. There we go. I have Bob White's in with my Coturnix quail, and they get along just fine. I was thinking that you probably handled them together. And really, if you raise them together, if they've hatched out together and they've been together since babies, they should get along pretty well. All right, Verna says 48 watching and only 17 thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up, people. Thank you for that, Verna. I appreciate it. TH55269 says, Rhonda, you get the Wi-Fi Inkbird temp controller. Ordered one, but not here yet. Wondered if the minimum differential set point is. What the minimum I think what you're talking about is like I can't remember what it is. I want to say it's like 1 degree. You can set it to where it's 1 degree. I usually set it like 2 or 3 because otherwise you got your light going on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, trying to keep it, regulated. So I set it like 2 or 3 degrees. 2 or 3 degrees is fine. It's going to work just fine that way. All right, Deer Creek says, thanks, James. Walt says to remove chlorine from tap water, fill 5-gallon bucket and put a cheap fish tank air pump in it for 24 hours and the air bubbles will pull out the chlorine. Yeah, honestly, you can just let it sit for probably 24 to 48 hours and the chlorine will evaporate out anyway. You can do that. It's probably just as easy to buy a bottle of water though and just, non-chlorinated water and use that. All right, Jakir says, thanks, Walt. We'll try the vac. Can quail eat dried mealworms or do they need grit with the mealworms? They can eat dried mealworms for sure. It's not a bad idea if they're eating a lot of insects and things to add some grit to their diet to give them something to kind of crush that up with. But yeah, they should be able to eat the dried mealworms as a treat. You shouldn't have to worry about that at all. It's just if they get a pretty steady diet of it, they're going to need some grit. All right, where are we at on time here? 7:45. Good grief, the time flies. We got 15 minutes left. All right, take a breath. Let's see. Because I Can Homestead says, from what I've read, wry neck is when their neck is curled upwards. Yep, these quail are curled down to their bellies. Is that considered wry neck? It's pretty much the same thing. Usually, it's curled up, but not always. And they'll tend to kind of change the direction depending on what they're doing. It's the same thing. It's not any different, really. All right. Verna says, Walt, thanks. Hope they can ship to Ohio. Kansas City Quail Farm does ship to Ohio. TH55269 says, I marked all the floating eggs to see if they hatched at all. Don't think about it, but I got a room dehydrator that should be good, clean water. There you go. Getting started on homesteading says, freeze-dried crickets, quail love. Yep, there you go. Sonny Reeves, I tried going to your Amazon shop, but only 2 things were there. Really? There should be a whole bunch of things there. I've got a whole list of things on the Amazon shop. Maybe I gave you the wrong link in one of my videos or something. It should be, what is it, just Amazon? Let me look that up real quick. Yeah, Amazon.com/shop/slightly rednecked. And there's a whole page of things on here. I wonder, are you in, who was that said that? I tried going, oh no, I lost it. Sonny Reeves. Sonny, are you in the U.S.? Maybe you're in a different country and it's only showing things that are available for you to order. I don't know. That's my only guess. I couldn't tell you exactly. All right. Walt says, if they have a sandbox, no need for added grit. Well, good point. They will eat some sand and things like that. So yeah, you don't have to worry about it that way. Didn't think about that. Rhonda says, I know, I'm sorry, I text too much and I skipped the punctuation to save on space. They give you a limited number of what you can type. No, it's okay. I wasn't picking on you. I'm sorry if it came across that way. It took me a minute to figure out what you were trying to say because it was all run together and I couldn't figure out where it stopped. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Trust me, I do way worse than that. Brandon Weller says, time to go into work. Uh-oh. Great life, chap. Have a good night, everyone. Well, hopefully you have a good night at work, Brandon. Boy, it sucks to have to work nights. Rhonda says, the one doe was due on Monday and still nothing, so I'm thinking she's not pregnant. Yeah, that's probably a pretty good bet. I would go ahead and breed her again. Yep, well, I agree with you. Floating eggs are bad eggs that lay on the bottom are the freshest. Yeah, what they're talking about, yeah, I agree with you too. What they're talking about with the float test, though, is in my incubation where you rehydrate the eggs. Really, that's not meant for the eggs that float on the top like a ping pong ball. That's meant for the eggs that, you've got some eggs that lay flat on the bottom and some will lay kind of a little bit like this. And you can leave those that lay a little bit at an angle in the water for a little bit and they'll rehydrate and they'll lay down. And that gives them a better chance of hatching. Use room temperature water. Don't use like ice water or something like that. All right. Gary B says, hey, bunch watching, thumbs up, y'all. Well, thank you, Gary. I appreciate that. Pam says, Chris, can you contact your local extension office and usually get, oh, no, you can contact your local extension office and usually get information on where to find rabbits also. Really, I hadn't thought about that. That may be something to try. That's a good suggestion. Thank you. I'd never thought about contacting the local extension office, but they very well may know. All right. Getting started on homesteading says, my feed store sells rabbits. Nice. Stephen Hendricks says, I got quail eggs from My Shower Farm for 50 cents each plus shipping. That sounds like a pretty good deal. My Shower Farm is a good, reputable breeder as well. You can't go wrong with their stuff either. All right. Walt says most feed stores are just reselling rabbits from local growers. Trying finding those local breeders. Yeah, that's a good suggestion too. Carter Kilty, I think it is. How do I know when my quail should lay eggs? Well, boy, that's tough. It depends on a lot of things. Generally, they'll start laying between 8 to 12 weeks, somewhere right around in there. Probably 10 is about the average. It's not uncommon for them to start laying at 8. But a couple of things need to be in place for that to happen. First of all, they need to have enough light. That's the most important thing. 14 hours a day of light, and make sure you're not stressing them out. They don't like to be moved around, so if you start moving them around from hutch to hutch and messing with them a lot, they're gonna delay. That's gonna delay them laying. But if you get them in a hutch, give them a couple of weeks of 14-hour a day light. Once they hit about 8 to 10 weeks old, somewhere right around in there, you should expect them to start laying eggs. There's no way to really tell. I mean, you can't look at a bird and go, oh, they're going to lay an egg the next day. There's no way to tell. You just have to wait. Hopefully that answers that for you. I got that cleared up, I hope. All right, where are we at here? Sharon says, James Ingalls, where are you looking for rabbits? If Kansas City, I can help. There you go. Thank you, Sharon. I appreciate that. Rhonda says, my quail weren't raised together and they get along fine. Had one problem. Quail removed him, and now a happy flock. Nice. It's interesting. You're pretty lucky there, because a lot of times, especially with older birds, if you introduce new birds to them, they're almost always going to beat the tar out of them. But all right, chlorine off gas. This is from Walt. Chlorine off gassing is related to temperature of water. So in cool or cold weather, just leaving it out will take a long time. Use an air pump. Okay, good point there. All right, Sunny says Texas. What was that in response to? Just, I don't know. Sunny, I don't know what you're responding to about Texas. Are you just from Texas, so you just randomly scream out Texas? I mean, I know when I lived in Texas, that was the thing about Texas. People were so proud of being from Texas. Everything was Texas sized and everything was Texas this, and the gas station had a bathroom sink that was shaped like the state of Texas. And so I don't know, Sonny, I'm just kidding with you. Oh, you're responding to me about where you live. Okay. Hopefully don't take offense at that. It's just a joke. I'm not picking on you. I'm just being a smart aleck there. So now you should see everything. You might check it again and let me know if you're still having that problem, because that'd be interesting. I've got, oh, good grief. How many things do I have on there? Probably 20 or so at least things. I need to add some more, don't I? By the way, if you guys have never seen a butterbell, I just looked at that and saw that on my Amazon shop page. If you've never seen a butterbell, it's on my Amazon shop page. It's like the last thing down there. It's a blue crock that says butter on it. Man, that's the best thing ever. It's, if you don't know this, butter doesn't have to be refrigerated. I mean, butter was created as a way to preserve milk, or cream more specifically. It doesn't have to be refrigerated. And this thing it's great. It's got a little dish you put some water in, and then another little dish you put kind of shaped like a bell. You put a stick of butter in, smash it down in there, and then you put it in that little canister with the water in it. The water lines runs just above the edge of the bell, and that keeps the air out, so it keeps your butter fresh, and you just keep it on your counter. So your butter is mostly room temperature, which means it's soft. Take that out of there, and you can just take it and spread it on your bread, whatever you're going to use butter for. You don't have to wait for it to soften up. So it's fantastic. And it makes a great gift for people that like wedding gifts, those kinds of things, because nobody's got one. And it's just a unique thing. So it's a great little gift to buy. They're cheap. They're like $20. So worth it for sure. All right. Sorry, I got sidetracked there. Ben Smith says, have you ever thought about getting a heat plate? You can buy one on Amazon for $75 that is 1 foot by 1 foot. And says, here it is, but there's no link there. I don't think it'll let you post links in here. Maybe it will. I don't know. I've thought about getting heat plates, but I've just never done it. I've always used the heat lights. That's always worked for me. So that's what I use. All right. Where are we at here? A Mystic Game says, I get my eggs from Hatch Poultry Farms for 60 cents an egg for Meat Maker. It's a pretty good deal. Yeah, I'm a little bit familiar with Hatch Poultry Farms, and from what I know, they've got great bloodlines as well. You can't go wrong ordering from them. They are actually, they may not be in here, I don't know, but they're one of the viewers that of the channel. They're involved with the channel quite a bit. So that's an interesting story too. If you read the story of the guy that started that, from what I read, I don't know him well yet. I've had some interaction with him, but he was 18 when he started that. Like, I think he's only like 20 years old now, young guy. And it's got a really nice selection of different birds and different eggs from different kinds of birds. Sells more than just quail. So yeah, it's worth looking into. Looks like a great option. All right, Ben Smith says, sorry that did not work. It's the Premier chicken heat plate. It does lower enough for quail. Yeah, I think it's probably a good option. I need to look into it. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I will. All right. Look at that. People being neighbors. Didn't even know. All right. James says, thanks. Good show. I watch a lot of your videos and learning a lot. Glad you have it. Well, thank you so much, James. I appreciate that. All right. Rhonda says, there were 5 mini flocks that I mixed together. Each flock had 2 or 3 birds. Interesting. That's I'm sorry, Walt, I'm laughing at your comment. Works for a pool service. Knows a lot about chlorine. Yeah, most of what I know about chlorine I knew from high school. I was a swimmer in high school. The only sport I was really good at. I went to state in distance, 500-yard freestyle. So yeah, I learned a lot about, well, I just shouldn't say I learned a lot about chlorine. I dealt with chlorine a lot in high school, but not since then. All right, Sonny says, just checked and the only things are the little giant incubator and the water nipples. That makes no sense. Has anybody else checked out my Amazon shop lately? Are you guys having the same issue? Why there's only 2 products showing up and not all of them? It doesn't have by chance well, no, that doesn't make sense either. I don't know, Sonny. I'm sorry. I wish I could fix that for you. All right, where are we at here? Lauren says, thanks for all your help. You're absolutely welcome. Jakir says, what happens if you overfeed quail mealworms? I know it's supposed to be a treat, but if it's fed a lot more, what are the risks? I don't know that there's any real problem with necessarily overfeeding them. I don't think they'll overeat on them. But what was I going to say? Yeah, I don't think they'll overeat on them. I mean, the only downside you're going to have is if you feed them so much that they don't eat anything but mealworms, they're going to have a vitamin deficiency of some kind. So, but that's it. I mean, that would have to be like, it's kind of like rabbit starvation, if you've ever heard of that. You know, that's a real thing. Rabbit starvation is a real thing. You eat all the rabbit you want, and you're constantly eating it, but you still die from starvation because there's no fat. It's only protein, basically, in rabbit. So you die because of a lack of fat. It can happen, but for it to happen, you pretty much got to be eating nothing but rabbit. So it's kind of the same kind of thing. I don't think it's a concern. I wouldn't worry about it. All right. All right, Rhonda says, I think you might be able to post the link after the live stream is over. Not 100% sure, but I think it's just the live stream that don't let you post a link to things. You may be right about that, Rhonda. And sometimes when you try to post links in the comments, like your comments get marked as spam and they get flagged that way, and I never see them. But look at that, Lars. Thank you so much. That's a 200 Danish something. I can't remember what the money's called. But it comes out to like $30 US dollars. So very generous. You come back in here all the time and just throw money at me. And I so much appreciate that, Lars. Thank you so much. I don't know I don't know why you do that, but I appreciate it. It's a very nice thing. All right. Oh, Joanna Parrish says, if you're a moderator, you can post links in the chat. Interesting. All right. Walt says, after you near fire, I think you need a plate yesterday. Oh, yeah, well, maybe so. I got it rigged up now, though. Those things are not falling off there now. It's working out pretty well. But yeah, I know it's probably a better idea. I probably should do that. Heat lamps are inherently dangerous, and I know that. Yeah, Rhonda, yeah, she went to the Amazon shop and ordered the temperature gauge from there. I wonder why it's only showing. Verna said she checked it out a week ago and it showed many things, the Amazon shop, that is. I don't know. I wish I could figure that out and get that fixed for you, but I just don't know. All right. Heather says, how old do rabbits have to be to breed? It depends on the rabbit. If you're talking about like the giant rabbits, the Flemish giants and those things, probably close to a year. With most of your standard meat rabbits, the New Zealand whites, the silver foxes, Californias, any of those standard size meat rabbits that are large but not giant, you're looking at probably 6 months for bucks. I would get the females, probably 7 to 8 months before I tried to breed them. So hopefully that answers that for you. All right. And Jakir says, what are the best treats to feed quail? Oh boy, there's all kinds of things. They're omnivores. So although in the wild they do primarily eat, lots of insects and those kinds of things, they also eat seeds and fruits and some of those things. They really like, most of mine really like vegetables. So like cucumber and those kinds of things they're pretty happy with. I don't think, and you're asking again if cracked corn is good for quail. I don't think there's any problem with cracked corn, but again, it's like anything else. Make sure that you use it in moderation. It's incredibly high in sugar. So you don't really want to feed a lot of cracked corn to any animal, really. It's pretty much nothing but sugar. So, but you can feed a variety of things to them as treats, and they'll be happy. Honestly, there's no reason to give them anything more than just mealworms. It's easy, it's simple, they love them, they're happy to have them. That's really all you need to do. Right out here, Walt says corn is mostly carbs and low on protein. Yep, I agree. Yeah, it's all sugar. Carbs are sugar, so. Joanna says, is there an age limit for female for breeding? Like, don't breed over X years old, California mixes? Not really. There is a point where they do start to become non-productive, which is generally around 4 years old, somewhere right around in there. You might get some that'll be productive up to 6 years, some that maybe at 3 years stop producing. But it's just pretty much, if they're willing to breed and they still have babies, then there's no reason you shouldn't breed them. What I find is that generally towards the end of that time frame, they kind of, usually 4 to 5 years, somewhere right around in there, they start having smaller litters, and it's a consistent thing. It's not one small litter. They had a small litter, the next litter is a small litter, 2 or 3 times in a row, and that's when I kind of know, well, it's time to get a new doe, retire this one. That's how I go with it anyway. Michelle, where are we at here? Oh boy, we're past time. Okay, these 2 more comments that are here, I'm going to answer those real quick, and then I got to wrap this up, guys. All right, Michelle says, it's my first time catching your live show. Well, thank you for joining us. Says, we have only had our quail for 4 weeks now, and we are waiting to see how we like them for eggs and meat. We are learning a lot from your videos. Well, thanks for watching them. I hope you are learning a lot. Hopefully you're finding them helpful, and good luck with your new birds. All right, because of Kane Homestead said my daughter is allergic to chicken. Among many other things, however, can eat quail, which is amazing. That is amazing. I've also heard of people that have allergies to chicken eggs being able to eat quail eggs with no problems. So glad to hear that you found a solution for that. Food allergies are rough, especially to be allergic to something like chicken, which is just everywhere in everything. It's crazy. So, all right, and look at that. I got to answer one more. Michelle Carlson wants a shout out. So there's your shout out. I got to wrap this up, guys. I keep seeing the comments coming in. I'm sorry if I didn't get to it. The chats, I'd love to stick around and answer all night, but I got family I got to go spend some time with too. I can't neglect them. Thank you guys for joining me every single week. I appreciate that, for keeping the chats going, because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have a live broadcast at all. So God bless each and every one of you. We will see you guys next week. Have a great weekend. Take care.